In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how you can play 3 famous AC/DC riffs on just one string. Now obviously these riffs are quite heavily simplified compared to the originals, just so you can pick them up quickly and start jamming along easily, and it's more about nailing the groove and the rhythm. So this is quite a good lesson if you've maybe only ever looked at the open chords before, or it's your first go at lead guitar. But if you're a little bit more experienced, maybe you've learned some power chords and started playing around with them, it might be worth looking for some versions of these tracks which are a little bit more true to the originals. The main goal here is to give you a fun and easy introduction into Series 4 of my beginner course. All the techniques and terminologies that we're going to be using are explained in previous series, so feel free to go and brush up if there's anything that you're struggling with. But for now though, let's dive into our first riff, which is T.N.T. So let's start with the main riff, which also doubles up as the verse of T.N.T. This is one of the first things I learned on guitar. It's nice and repetitive, so quite easy to practice. So we're going to start by just hitting the open low E string. Next, we're going to use the first finger to play the 3rd fret on the low E, which is the note G. Then we're going to use the 3rd finger to play the 5th fret, which is the note A. So far we've got... And then to finish it off, we're going to go 1st finger on 3rd fret again, up to 3rd finger on 5th fret, and back to 1st finger on 3rd fret, so G, A, G. And then we'd start again from that open E string. So we've got... Now it's time to talk about the rhythm, and AC/DC riffs have a lot of pushes, which are essentially notes played on offbeats, or the ands, rather than beats 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is a perfect example of this, so if I count through the riff, we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, and 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and 1, 2, 3 and 4, and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So even when you start the riff again, when it repeats from that open low E string, that's on a push as well. It's the and of beat 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and both of those 2 notes are on off beats as well. And then we have and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So lots of pushes in this riff, just makes it sound super groovy. You'll get this in a lot of AC/DC tunes. Now ultimately, when you're playing the song, I don't want you to feel like you have to count it. I just want you to be aware of these pushes, but when you're playing it, just try and feel the groove of the original track. However, it's good to know this kind of stuff, because if you are ever struggling with something rhythmically, you can get in and decipher it and figure out where it's going wrong and how to amend it. Now another thing I want to talk about if you are jamming along with the original is the very start of the song, which starts with this kind of drum build-up, and what you're listening for is a little drum fill at the end of that build-up, which is going to signify that the riff is about to start. So you want to be kind of poised and ready for that and have a few goes at it and try and get in right on time. It's good to try and play along with those sort of elements because it emulates what it's like to be in a real band. And the final thing I want to touch on for this part of this song is the ending of the riff, which doesn't happen until the end of the first verse, so just before the start of the first chorus. And all we do is play the first half of the riff, so the open E, 3rd fret and 5th fret. But you're just sustaining that 5th fret until the chorus starts. You can give it a little bit of vibrato if you like as well for a bit of character. And then you're ready to dive into the chorus. So in the chorus, we only have 3 notes to play, and they're played on each of the letters T.N.T. The 3 notes that we're playing are the 5th fret, which was the note A, the 3rd fret, which was the note G, and then the open string, which was obviously the low E. So that would be... So really, the lyrics are singing T.N.T, but we're playing A, G, E. Now the chorus has a bit of a call and response effect going on, so you're going to play that line. when he sings TNT, then you're going to be quiet while he sings the kind of response lyric, and then you're going to come back in for the next TNT. So you've got then a pause, then back, another pause. We've got 4 of these. You should be able to hear the song in your head. Then at the very end, we've got the same ending as the verse. So after we've hit that low E, we're going to go back to the G and the A. Both on off beats again. And once more, you can just let that A string ring out and add a little bit of vibrato if you feel like it. So full chorus is going to go. Then you're back into the verse riff. The chorus riff might sound a little bit weird on its own with those gaps, but hopefully you can hear how it works in the context of the track and fill in the gaps in your head with the lyrics that he sings. So those are all the parts I want you to focus on for now. I haven't shown any footage of the right hand because I'm just using all down picks for this lesson, but you could throw in some up picks if they felt comfortable as well. I do want you to try playing from start to finish through the entire track. You can play through the whole thing with just the parts that we've learned in this lesson. Even the guitar solo is played over the top of the main riff. So you just need to listen to the track a few times and get used to when to change between the main riff and the chorus riff. The only part I suppose technically you can't play is the very ending, which is kind of a little bit weird and messy and quirky, but you can play it up to that point, so plenty of practice you can get in jamming along. So that was T.N.T, and now we're going to move on to the next riff, which is Highway to Hell. So for Highway to Hell, we're just going to be looking at the main riff, as really you'd need to throw in some chords to make that chorus sound right. But the important thing to master here is the timing and leaving the correct amount of space between phrases. So in terms of the notes that we're going to be playing, we're going to start with the 5th fret on the low E string. Now I'm going to be using the little finger because it means I can keep my hand in one position. But if the little finger still feels a little bit uncomfortable at this stage, you can use other fingers and just kind of shuffle the hand about a little bit. Doesn't really matter for now, just go with whatever feels right to you. And it's going to be 3 notes on that 5th fret. So that's the start of your riff. Next, we're going to use first finger to play 2 notes on the 2nd fret, which is the note F sharp, followed by second finger playing the 3rd fret, which is the note G. So that little phrase is. And if we put them 2 together, so starting on the 5th fret, leave the right amount of space. We then repeat that little 2nd and 3rd fret part another couple of times. Then to finish it off, we're going to do 1 note on the 2nd fret and then 2 notes on the 5th fret. Then again, we leave the right amount of space, then start again from the 5th fret. So the whole thing. Obviously, this is a super famous and recognizable riff, so you shouldn't have to think too much about the timing. But there is one important thing to note, which is that the first note of the riff comes in on the and of beat 3 of the bar. So if you're being counted in by a drummer, it would have to be after the 3rd hit. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So a lot of notes are taking place on the and, 4, and of the bar, which is just part of the characteristic of this tune. Might feel a little bit strange at first, just as you're getting used to accenting these offbeats, but really good practice and a good way to get some groove into your riffs. Likewise, with this riff, I'd highly recommend playing along to the original and just making sure that you're playing the notes at the same time that you're hearing on the track. You could also try just jamming along with a drum loop. That would be pretty good practice to develop some independence. I know there's free apps you can get on your phone with drum loops, so you just need to find one that's appropriate and the right tempo. That would be quite a good exercise. But main thing is getting used to that coming in on the and of beat 3 on the offbeat, and then just playing along with how you remember the track sounding and trying to preserve those accents. So that was Highway to Hell. Now it's time to move on to the final track for this lesson, which is Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. So this is another great riff for mastering pushed rhythms and leaving the correct amount of space between phrases. You'll notice they're both common themes of these riffs because they're generally where the groove and the character comes from. So we're going to start with just the open low E string. Following that, we're going to be playing the 3rd fret on the bottom string, which is the note G. Then back to the low E string. So generally what happens in this song is the low E is held for quite a long time, and then you're quickly jumping to another note and then jumping back to the low E. I describe it as bouncing off the low E string. So that first section would sound like this. So straight to G, straight back to low E. Then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to jump to A, which is the 5th fret of the low E string. Straight back to the open string. And finally, we're going to jump to D, which is actually up on the 10th fret. So a bit of a bigger jump this time, but it's 10th fret and then open again. Then you let that string ring out until the end of the bar. Then you start again from the open string. So this riff both starts and ends with the open string. So that would sound like this. Now I'm just using first finger on all of those notes for the purpose of demonstration, but you can use whatever finger you want really. They're quite separated in the track, so it's not like it's a rush to get to any of them. In terms of the timing, the first note falls on beat 1 of the bar, so you would literally count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it makes that first low E nice and easy, but the rest of the notes are all on offbeats. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1. Again, when you're actually playing along with a song, you don't want to think too much about that, but it is quite a good thing to be able to recognize when it happens in a song so you can make sure you're getting the rhythm right. Once again, I'd advise playing this one along to the original track or along to a drum loop on your phone. You want to get used to accenting different beats to the drums, so the drums are probably going to be highlighting beats 1, 2, 3 and 4, while you're playing notes on the ands in between them. This idea you might hear referred to as syncopation, where you've got different instruments accenting different beats. It might feel a little bit odd if you've never done it before, but definitely adds a lot of groove to your playing, so worth putting the time in and mastering, and I'm sure you'll feel quite satisfied when you finally get it right along to the drums. So I hope that's given you a few fun riffs to start jamming along with. As mentioned, these are super simplified versions just to build a little bit of momentum going into this series. The main thing to focus on here is the rhythm and the timing. AC/DC really were the masters of writing groovy riffs with elements like the syncopation and pushes that we've talked about, so this is a great opportunity to develop that side of your playing. Remember, all the techniques and terminology used here are covered in previous series of my beginner course, which you can find nice and organised on my YouTube channel page. Feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along with the lessons, and I'd also really appreciate you giving the video a like as well if you found it helpful. Now I'm going to do a few more lessons like this one where I compile multiple riffs into one video. Then following that, we're going to look in a little bit more depth at more specific songs, maybe learning the whole song from start to finish. So hopefully I'll see you in some of those lessons as well.